All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of David's Saturday Night Sitback. Tonight, I'm excited to welcome Mitch Hetrick with Project Wildfire onto the show. At Project Wildfire, they are an event and media company where they are building the bridge between popular culture and a life on fire. Sorry, I typed my own notes wrong. And inspiring individuals to lead extraordinary lives. Here on DSNSB, we have a similar mission that by the end of each episode, you feel like your own internal fire is reignited for whatever aspect of your life you're most passionate about. So with similarly worded missions, I think great things are going to be discussed on today's episode. So with that being said, Mitchell, welcome to your episode of DSNSB.
Thank you so much for having me. What an intro. Appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, my pleasure. Are you happy?
I am so happy.
Good. Dalton, I think he stole that question from me. He asked
He
you.
did? I was going to say.
I asked him on his podcast, and I've asked him a few times, and then I fired up your podcast on Don't Think Breathe last night, and first thing out of his mouth, he was like, "Are you happy?" I said, it's like a wildfire. Everyone's asking it now. Are you happy? Are you happy?
That's not a bad thing to be asking.
What are you happy about?
I am just happy to be alive. I think when we practice gratitude, I mean, you start with writing affirmations, at least for me, every day, just trying to practice gratitude. But when it translates into feeling down to your nervous system, it translates to everywhere. I mean, your mood and how you just hold yourself in life. So we got a lot to be grateful for. I mean, I know I could list things for hours. So when you put things into perspective, things can go up and down. But when you practice gratitude, putting things back into perspective, it's hard not to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to... I used to keep a journal, and whether it was things I was grateful for, if I had a rough day, it was usually thoughts about my day. And then I also had a series of questions that I would sometimes use. The 7 questions, I'll just give you 2 of them. One was, what are you proud of in your life right now? What about that makes you proud? And how does that make you feel? And then the next one, instead of pride, would be like, what are you happy about? What are you grateful about? And then those follow-up questions about why does that make you happy and how does that make you feel? So I used to go through and journal pretty regularly. The last 6 months, man, I have dropped off the boat hard. I'm not going to lie to you or the audience and pretend like I still do it, but I don't know, not for any particular reason. It's just one of those habits that I did for like 2-3 years, pretty consistent, and then it just sort of went away at some point.
Dude, like the cells in our body, we're always growing and adapting.
Yeah.
So it can translate in other areas of your life.
Yeah, totally. Where did you grow up?
I was born and raised until the age of 12 in Montgomery, Alabama.
What Montgomery, Alabama? Is that north, south, east, or west Alabama?
It's pretty smack in the middle.
Right
south.
in the middle?
It's the capital.
What do you remember from good old Montgomery, Alabama?
Remember a lot of good food, a lot of big warm laughs. And yeah, I can't complain about anything. It's definitely was a very different location. I moved to Dripping Springs after that. So just the general area and my classmates was completely different variables from growing up in Montgomery to moving out to Dripping Springs. So I kind of obviously remember the differences, but it was a lot of good people, that Southern spirit.
I love that one of your memories was a lot of warm laughs. Who were you laughing with?
Yeah, I grew up going to church with my parents, and there was just a lot of very outgoing people I remember that were adults in my life that I didn't encounter as much, I think, moving out here. I think people were a little more closed off when I still went to church, like when I moved here growing up. But I remember people being a little more seeming like they were putting on a character for Sunday when I grew up, it just felt, I don't know, so genuine, but I was so young. I mean.
Yeah. Are you still, were you raised Christian?
I was raised Christian, yeah.
Does cursing bother you?
No.
Okay. I try to tone it. Well, so far no one's been sensitive to cursing, but I try to be respectful. Do you still go to church?
I do now. Yeah. I probably took a 3-year break, went on spiritual journey, up, down, left, right, searching all corners of the world, but I recently started going to Red Rocks in Austin.
How recently?
My 3rd time was last Sunday.
Okay. So you've only been going back for 3 weeks.
Correct.
Why did you go back?
Someone had told me that, I mean, it doesn't need to be about you feeling like you fit the part there completely. It's more about how does it make you feel? How are the people around there? Are you getting things out of it? Because I feel like, at first I felt kind of left out. I mean, not left out. I mean, not fitting in completely because I love to research ancient world and ancient civilizations and all of these things that challenge lots of notions I think most Christians don't want to challenge. So those reasons kept me back from going, because I feel like, oh, maybe other people won't relate to me on certain topics, but that's not what it's about. It's about the experience, and it's about how it makes you feel and what you can get out of it. And I think you can get lots of valuable information and experiences out of all sorts of things if you don't let variables like that hold you back.
So how did you feel after your first 3 times back?
I felt amazing. The energy in there is awesome. Red Rocks does a fantastic job of being very open arms and welcoming to anybody. They say that they're a hospital more than they're education facilities. I forgot their wording. I don't want to put words in their mouth. But it was really cool. I mean, the 2 people I was sitting beside in their little welcome party were recovering addicts, and they didn't look the typical church part, at least in my past perspective of who I would see walking into a church. And they were just 2 of the most delightful people, and it was very apparent that they felt very welcomed as well.
Yeah. The older you get, the older I get, and it sounds like based off the addicts that you were sitting next to, are probably discovering this for yourself. That phrase, you can't judge a book by its cover, it's so dumb and overused, but like potentially maybe one of the truest statements I've ever heard in my life. You know, there is a guy at the gym a couple weeks ago, and my buddy came over to me, and he was like, "Hey, David, I have a potential guest for you for your podcast. My uncle, he killed someone, and he just got out of jail, and he's here visiting. You want to meet him?" And I'm like, what? Because that's not really something I promote. You murder on the show, but you know, I walked over. He's walking me over to him. The guy is, you know, he's all tatted up, just jacked beyond belief. Had a very focused face, but like not someone who I usually wouldn't approach in the gym, not because he's bigger, more of just like when you have headphones on, face down, hoodie on, I take that as signals of like, I'm not here to socialize, right? I'm here to come in, work out. So my friend walks me over to him, he takes off his headphones, shakes his hand, huge smile as soon as we introduce ourselves to each other, and had a great 20-minute conversation. One of the most friendly, down-to-earth people I'd ever met. And if my friend hadn't told me that he had just got out of prison, I would have never known that this guy like took someone else's life. And ultimately he ended up not coming on because his story was basically like, if you're debating murdering someone, you're probably not going to listen to a podcast first about it. Like, oh, before I kill Mitch, like, let me fire up David Saturday night, sit back and listen to the murder episode, and maybe so he ended up not coming on, and I understood his reasoning, but that was a very long-winded way of saying that, yeah, man, you can never know someone's story based off their tattoos, their height, the clothes they chose to wear, whatever the fucking thing is, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So going back to Alabama for a minute, I love that one of the things, did I already ask you who you're laughing with? You said there's a lot of warm laughs. That was like one of the first memories that came to mind. And that was just so specific.
It was just the adults I grew up around.
Like your parents,
My
uncles.
parents had amazing friends. My parents are both amazing people. Super lucky to have both of them. They're both just amazing people. So they also had amazing friends.
And you guys made the decision to move out to Dripping Springs specifically because, do you remember why?
It was just my dad's work.
Dad's work?
Yeah.
Okay. So then what was life like? Where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school in Dripping Springs High School.
Okay. What was high school like for you?
High school, I think by the age of 15, 16, I was such a curious kid. I always say, like, I hear peer pressure of smoking weed or whatever it is, but I think the first time I ever was offered to smoke weed, I didn't feel any pressure, nor did I feel like I was doing something wrong. I was just a curious kid. And I did it, and probably 15, 16, that led to, I mean, people get mad at saying weed's a gateway drug, this or that, but I went from weed to pills to just about everything on the board until the very hard stuff, starting at a young age. So my high school was filled with was drug-fueled and party-fueled.
And was there... before you ever tried any weed or whatever the drug was for the first time, did your parents ever tell you not to, or did the church ever bring it up? Like, was there any part of you where like, oh, this is a sin, but I'm also really curious? Or were you so, or for you, was it just like a thing to do? Like, you didn't know it was necessarily quote unquote good or bad. It was just this thing that was introduced to you and you're like, sure, why not? Let's try it.
I mean, I think it was unspoken that I shouldn't do it and that it wasn't a good thing. Both my parents grew up, like both my parents aren't drinkers. Neither of them ever smoked or done a drug in their life. So they didn't even have like it didn't even come up because they didn't have the bad possible experiences when they were younger to like come from. So like it didn't really come up with their parenting. And in the church, no, I don't think it really came up either. I think I knew inherently they wouldn't want me to do it, but it was more like you said, it was just like a curious thing I wanted to do. I wanted to try it.
Do you remember how you felt the first time you got high?
Honestly, like shamelessly, I think it was one of the best times I've ever had. Being like a 15-year-old kid, I remember it because it changed my perspective on life.
I love your honesty. That was so genuine and transparent of you. I love it. I love that you're here right now. That was great.
I mean, I'm completely sober right now, and I haven't done a drug in a long time, and I haven't drinking in a few months now. But yeah, no, yeah, it was a great time. It opened my eyes to life could be more. Like it made me question reality, and I felt like a really cool way.
When you were consuming these items, were you with friends, by yourself, mix of both?
Always with friends.
Always with friends.
It was never a coping mechanism ever. I was a kid who just didn't care and wanted to have a good time.
Yeah,
really.
And would it just be like at school, at parties, all the time?
All the time, man. I think the height of it, probably like 16, I was smoking before school, at lunch, after school, taking drugs throughout school. Xanax went around my school pretty hard as a kid. So like, I think when I was like 16, I was taking Xanax pretty often too. And I kind of got off that stuff later in high school, but I was always just a pretty avid weed smoker.
And during that time, during these couple years that this is going on, it was just life? Just like if I drank a LaCroix every day, you got high every day, and it was just sort of what you were doing at the time?
Exactly. I mean, it was just what I was doing. There was no coping mechanism. It was no like going against authority. It truly was. I mean, very privileged kid growing up. I was in a very well-off place in a great education system that I didn't care about, and I didn't have to worry about what was going to be on my plate to eat that night. I didn't have to worry about, I'm not going to pay bills because I was a 16-year-old kid whose family provided everything for him. Mm-hmm. It was purely privileged foolishness of just being naive and having the opportunity to make the mistakes I did. I mean,
did your parents know?
Absolutely, yeah.
Did they say anything?
Oh, yeah, all the time. No, it really damaged our relationship growing up because I would be very deceivious and lie and try to get around them. And that kind of, what we'll talk about, I mean, I'm assuming later, is like that shame that came on where it was like, I was a liar. So much of my childhood formed off because I had to like pretend I wasn't high or sneak around, or I'm going here when actually I went somewhere else. And the repetition of lying to my parents like that, affects you and how you show up as a person in other areas of your life.
Yeah. I've thought about that. In my 20s, I was, yes, we'll get into it. When you're a habitual liar, yeah, hopefully at some point you sort of have this light bulb moment of just like, why? I mean, we know why. Obviously, you're not gonna go home and be like, "Hi, mom and dad," unless you're just trying to like stick it to them to really be an obnoxious little brat. Then maybe you'd be honest and tell them. But so I can definitely resonate with you. I wasn't doing drugs in high school, but lying about other things. So you graduate, and then, actually, before we move on to post-graduation and what you did when you were 18, 19, 20, do you have any siblings?
I do. I have a little brother who is 16. And
right now?
No, he just turned 17. I lied. That's bad.
Uh-oh.
He just turned 17 in September. And I have an older sister who just got married a month ago who is 28, living in D.C. So big spread.
Did your brother know?
Yeah, I very distinctly remember him like peeking around the corner, seeing me maybe hit my jewel back in the day, or like overhearing fights with my parents. So yeah, no, he definitely knew, and I think hopefully it's the reason he's such a hard worker now. The kid is shredded. He's jacked.
Yeah.
He goes to the gym every day, super diligent about it. And I'm sure he's done ruckus maybe with his friends here and there, but I don't believe he's interested in it. And maybe my mistakes were causing that, so there might be some good in the darkness.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it makes me think of this phrase that a friend told me once where he's in AA, and one of the phrases he told me, I forget if it's a phrase, a story, but he was basically like, if you have a parent who has two kids and the parent's an alcoholic, one's going to drink because all the time because their parents an alcoholic, and the other one is never going to drink because their parents an alcoholic. So it almost makes me, just based off the little bit of information you just told me, if maybe that was almost like your brother. He sort of saw how you were living your life, and for him, he doesn't want that, and so he's laser focused on the gym and on other things that he's working hard on. I don't know. I'm projecting things onto your family I shouldn't.
No.
I know everything about you guys, and I've known you for a whopping 19 minutes.
If we don't project, we'll never get anywhere. But the opposite of that, what's funny is my parents were such straight arrows. Mother won state in high school in tennis, played D1 tennis. My father played college tennis as well. That's how they met. Father straight arrow, started working for the government. My mother was valedictorian, has a doctorate's degree. My sister was the straight as an arrow in high school, also valedictorian of high school, full ride to Baylor, Hakuna Matata, whatever they call it. And then White House internship. She's the most intelligent, beautiful woman I've ever met. And then there was me. I mean, so like kind of like alcoholic parents, one kid straight arrow, one kid's an alcoholic. My parents straight arrows, one kid straight arrow, one kid turned to an alcoholic.
A little. You're being a little gremlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the gremlin.
You were being the gremlin of the family.
And my brother's like a mix between us two.
That's funny. So he was, and yeah, he was young. And how old is your sister right now? Did you say?
She's 28.
So she's 5 years old. Did she know? She
Oh,
had to have known. I was
absolutely.
going to say, if your brother knew and your parents knew, there's no way she didn't know.
Everyone knew.
Did she ever say anything to you in trying to like encourage you to stop, or was she neutral, or what was sort of what was your and her dynamic during that time?
Yeah, no. I mean, by the time I was doing this, she was out of the house.
Okay.
So, but no, we weren't very communicative, and I don't think that's on her. I think she knew I wouldn't have listened.
Yeah.
And maybe she did try to reach out. I don't even remember. But I don't think she knew the extent of what was going on.
Does your brother live here?
My brother does, yeah.
How's your guys' relationship today?
Really good, yeah. No, and that's something I really want to work on all the time, is because I had no relationship with my little brother at all until very recently. And we were going to the gym together. And now I like asked him, I met up and asked my little brother to help me work out more. So that's something we're going to get to do together.
I want to work out with you guys. Let's go. Do you go to, where do you go right now?
The YMCA is where we'll go in Dripping Springs.
Cool, okay. So high school wraps up. You graduate. You graduated high school?
Barely, but I did.
You got out. So you get degrees. And what happens next?
What happens next is my first job was a preschool teacher. So I worked with special needs kids all through high school. There was a coach who...
While you were doing the drugs?
Correct. While I was a party animal. That's correct.
That seems like such a weird mix, but okay.
I mean, my mother was the school board on the school board. So like, and every teacher probably knew me. I was well known that I was a troublemaker, but that I was a smart kid who didn't try. And that I was always very respectful to adults. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. My parents' friends liked me. It wasn't like I was a degenerate. I was just I just wanted to have a bunch of fun. And I didn't really think about how that affected other people. But in school, in person, I was very respectful.
Why do you want to work with special needs kids?
I didn't at first. Well, not that I didn't. That sounds bad. But I didn't get into it by choice. It was a punishment, quote unquote. So there was a coach who really like stuck it out for me and was a big influence in my life. And I was going to get, I believe, suspended. They had like a separate building called AEP. And I got sent there like suspended for like having alcohol at school once, maybe this or that. But there was one thing where he was going to they were going to send me back there, and he convinced them to just remove one of my off periods, my junior year of high school, and instead put me in the special needs class with him because he was a special needs teacher where he took them. So then it was me, one special needs kids, and the coach for my entire off period. Instead of off period, it was that for my junior year. And that probably had effects on my life that I'm not even giving credit to till this day. Because then I fell in love with those kids. I fell in love with that kind of just that line. I don't even call it work because it's or service because it's just.
Excuse me.
I just fell in love with it, yeah, and very grateful that coach did that for me. He's one of the reasons I graduated too. But that's how I got in there. Long story short, it was a punishment for me messing around.
And did you ever then try to do more work with them voluntarily?
I did. My senior year was all voluntarily.
Yeah.
I was the treasurer, and then I did stuff outside as well. So yeah, short answer, yeah.
Did working with those kids change your perspective on anything?
I don't even know if I had the awareness to back then of like being able to notice my perspective changed or anything, but it definitely did back then, because I think it just made me more of a gentle, aware person, because like, you know, you live in your own world so much, and it's like, oh, I want to smoke weed, I want to live like this, and people want to keep me from doing that, having fun, whatever. But you can't be in your own world with those kids. It's about them when you're with them. And that's like a given. And it's easier to understand. Like, you know, a kid throws something at you, you can't, you don't, what are you going to do, get mad?
Smack him.
No, that's what that's what I mean. You're
Sorry.
yeah.
I got him, you guys.
War mission roll out. But I think with those kids, I was able to go from my perception of life and put myself in their perspective. And that really made me slow down and think about things other than myself.
Which one was your favorite?
Which kid?
Yeah.
I can't say. No, there was a kid named Miguel who was, me and him won a bowling tournament together. I think everyone won, but we won.
Right.
We won. And he was the kid my junior year that I was with every day. It was just me, him, and the coach. And then senior year, they changed it to where like all the kids were together and it was unified champions. So student athletes and the kids. So we all did like games with them every day. But Miguel was my one. And I even saw him after high school once. And then we have a picture together when we graduated, which is super cool.
Cool. Do you still do any work with special needs kids?
I don't. I'm definitely interested in it. It's something I want to get into in the future.
Okay.
With Project Wildfire, but at the moment, no.
Okay. Post high school, what's going on? So you graduate and then what?
Post high school, I got into special needs kids because I was a preschool teacher.
Yes.
Thank you. I was always good with children, I think. So I became a preschool teacher, which is even more ironic, like the lifestyle I was living while being a preschool teacher behind the scenes. But I was very respectful of the parents. I was very good with the kids, and I took the job serious. And I believe I was an excellent teacher and role model for those kids, despite not caring about my own life outside of there. So for a little bit, I was living in San Marcos. Like I moved down there with this big guy I partied with, and I was hanging out with, I had a squad of friends that we just partied together all the time. We had our little posse, and not going to big parties. It was just more like a little friend group of like 4 guys, 4 girls. Yeah. But we just had as much fun as we could together as possible, you know, doing coke, doing Xanax, drinking all the time, doing whatever it was. And I lived that lifestyle pretty much pretending like I was partying like I went to Texas State without actually doing the education, hanging out with Texas State kids.
Was the bulk of that posse, they were all going to Texas State?
Yeah. No. Gotcha. Yeah, one of my best friends in high school went there, and I lived in his dorm with him. Like, on like a shaft mattress in his dorm. Like, and they didn't know I was in there for a little bit. So that's pretty funny. So I was like living and partying like I went there without even going there. And then like I know I briefly mentioned before, TikTok became a thing, and I had 2 black eyes. I broke my nose. Again, wasted, broke it.
How?
Someone punched me in the face, broke my nose.
Why?
I think we were at a restaurant, and I left him for 2 minutes as a joke, and then we drove back, and he opened the door and like punched us both.
Oh, so he was a friend of yours?
Oh, yeah, we were a good friend. Yeah, he was.
And my good friends punch me in the face all the time.
Yes. No, we were definitely super intoxicated.
Gotcha.
18, you know.
So he says you square in the face, you have 2 black eyes, broken nose, and then we're saying about TikTok.
I take a video of me playing piano, and I do something just like obnoxious, like just immature. I go like, yeah, bitch. And then I start playing piano like really like pretty rapidly fast. I've taken lessons since I was a kid. And so I think it seemed very impressive on the video, and the dynamic of the black eyes and me saying, yeah, bitch, the beginning of the video. Woke up and had 2.5 million views. And at that point in my life, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a rapper, a musician, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually know how I was going to get there. All I cared about was girls and partying and having fun. And then I was like, oh my goodness, this is my chance. Like all insecurity, all doubt went away. And I think the confident party me took over, and it was like, I'm going to be famous. This is my golden ticket. This video, it starts here. And so my entire mindset shifted when I woke up with that video.
And yeah, in one moment.
In one moment.
Hung over as shit, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what'd you do as a result of those 2 million views? And 2.5 million. Excuse me. I don't want to downplay your.
I don't think there's, because honestly, if you know TikTok now, 2.5 million views on one video is nothing, and 30K followers TikTok really isn't anything, unless you're consistent and do something with it, which I never was. I just barely posted and kind of rolled around. But what it did, so that didn't get me to the point where I was in the future. What it did give me was this like blind confidence and belief that I was going to be it and that I already was it. So that confidence took me around, came with me everywhere I went. I eventually met a party promoter who I would like freestyle at parties all the time.
Rapping.
Yeah, rapping and stuff, or play piano, whatever it was, just be impressive. And this party promoter was like saying how he managed these old big artists that are out in LA now. And then he told me he'd manage me. I didn't even know what that meant, and I don't think he ever did managing, nor did I do anything for him. I think we were just two party animals that just were talking out our butt. But he became my manager, and he had some big friends, some big YouTuber friends. There's a lot of big YouTubers in Austin, and one of those YouTubers has around 1 million subscribers, and I met him, and I overheard his conversation. We're at his penthouse, and I overhear his condo. I don't think it's a penthouse. I don't want to talk out. But I overhear a conversation of him talking about how music on his videos get copyrighted. So I go to him and I'd be like, and I was like, I will make any music for your videos, personalized, whatever it is. We'll go to the studio, I'll make it in 1 hour. So you can have personalized music for your video. And he was like, are you serious? That's so cool. So we did that. We went to the studio the next day, and I made a song, like call his username Anthem, and it went from there. And then I probably made like 3 or 4 other songs for his next videos, and I just started hanging out with him every day for the next like few months. And he lived a very, to me at the time, ideal lifestyle.
And was this here, or was this in Austin?
This is in Austin.
Okay, so you're still in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you what brought you out to Los Angeles, unless that detracts from. I sort of want to say, well, just what happened next. So you're making music for this guy, living the life you think was like, you're at the time thinking like, I made it.
Yeah,
Here I am,
100%.
Still 18 or 19 at this point? How
yeah,
old are you?
I hadn't turned 19 yet. I think I was still 18. Or I might have been 19. I think I was 19.
So you're 18 years old, and you're like, look at me, bitches. I made it. And I'm not even 20 yet. I'm still a teenager.
Oh, my God.
Fucking Jesse Pinkman over here.
I probably did think that. No, my mindset. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I look back now, and I just cringe so hard at all the old stories I used to post and just blind confidence. But, yeah, no, it was like one summer, and it was just filled. It was videos, going around with cameras on you. And I never experienced cameras. So the cameras are on me, and you walk in a party, and everyone's like, who are these guys?
Right.
And they're like, oh, that guy's a musician. He hangs with the posse. Even if I didn't have any music out, which I never did, never had any music out, I just was in their videos and rolled with them. And it was kind of just like mysterious, ambiguous rapper guy thing.
Yeah.
That like I kind of got this like name for in the party scene in Austin. And then I lived a lifestyle. I did a lot of drugs. I didn't pay for any of it. I just went around, did all the activities with them, didn't pay for it. I hooked up with a lot of girls that just probably thought I was way cooler than I was, just because I was hanging out with these guys with cameras. And yeah, that lifestyle was just rampant until eventually, and it wasn't long. It was a few months. And then I went out to LA just because I had one friend I had made through this lifestyle, who was moving out to LA. One of the big YouTubers in Austin moved out to LA, and this girl followed him because she wanted to be his assistant. And so I went out to visit her. So I was hanging out with her a lot at the time. And that 1 week LA trip turned into me living there, hopping around from Airbnb to Airbnb until I went broke.
Now, when you moved out there, you had $15,000 to your name, right?
Correct.
Where did you get that money?
This is a great part of the story. I'm glad you brought it up. I was hit by a drunk driver when I was 18.
Fascinating.
And I got slightly injured. Obviously, pressed charges to pay for everything. I ended up getting $30K.
Wow.
So
that's like, it sounds like, I hope you understand what I mean by this, but that's like the worst thing that could have happened to you.
Absolutely.
Like you did
oh
not,
my goodness.
your ego at that time did not need a $30,000
oh my gosh, yeah.
paycheck.
Because that was before I even was a preschool teacher. That was like in high school still. I forgot to mention that. So that's why I was able to live the life I was and not care, because I had the money. And I was working a job and making it back. And so the fun of my lifestyle. And then, yeah, what I did with half of that, as soon as that TikTok went viral and I met these YouTubers, is I put a down payment on a Mercedes. I don't even remember what type it was. It had a bloody interior. It was a Mercedes coupe with red leather seats. 2019 at the time, in 2020. So it was a very new, nice Mercedes coupe that I put a down payment on. No plan to pay it going forward. Didn't even think about it. And I had it for like a month. And then I had to give it back when I went out to LA. But I remember like posting my story, like this complete fraud being like, upgrading my car, who wants to buy this?
Upgraded my whip.
Yeah, no, really, I think I posted on my story. I was like, upgrading my whip, bitches, probably. And I had to turn it back in because I couldn't afford it. But no, and I had this other friend who had an iced out Gucci watch who like, he wanted me to sell it for him because I had met all these people who maybe could buy it, whatever. And I remember I would wear it around like it was mine. And yeah, so that's like the biggest reason. I wasn't just hanging out with these guys. Like I was whipping that car and wearing all this jewelry, and I really did look the part.
How much jewelry are we talking?
I mean, I don't think that watch,
couple rings.
I mean, you see all those like iced out watches and all the jewelry, and like now you can get like pretty lab grade diamonds, or even if they're real, like a few $1,000 watch, and it looks like you would never have any idea how much it's really worth. So I'm not like a crazy amount of real jewelry or anything. It was more like looking the part. Like even the car I drove, I don't think it was worth more than like 20-something thousand, but it looked like it could be worth 80,000. You know, it was perfect for me at the time. It was perfect for me to play this little part.
Let me pause for 1 second.
I apologize. Buddy's got to go. You know he's got to go and he's got to go. No, not at all. Not at all. No worries. Anything for Thad. Anything for you,
real,
buddy.
Man. Anything for Thad is
anything for Thad.
Story of my life. Do you know who Jesse Pinkman is? Do you get that reference?
Yeah. I was super late to it. I didn't even watch Breaking Bad till like in the last 6 months.
As you were talking, like, because he just said bitch at the end of like every sentence.
Yeah,
right?
he'd be like,
so
bitch. Yeah.
So as soon as you said that about your TikTok video, while also knowing that you were actively doing drugs and just you have all this money just like Jesse did, I'm like, you're like a real life Jesse Pinkman a little bit, and that's a compliment. I love
definitely
Jesse.
just as fraudulent. Yep, that's for sure.
I would hang out with Jesse in real life if he was a real dude. He's awesome. I think. You're judging me for making that statement.
No,
you're like I'm off this podcast.
It's my own judgment of my past self. That's what it is.
Gotcha.
No.
Gotcha. Well, I'd want to hang out with like the Jesse at the end of the show, like when he escaped, because I have a feeling.
I haven't seen the rest of the show.
Oh,
you got to stop.
Whoopsie.
No,
What
I don't want to start talking Breaking Bad, but
what season are you in?
Whenever he starts working with the Gus's Fried Chicken guy, he just got in the new lab.
3 probably.
Yeah, 3. He just got in the brand new lab.
Okay, you're in 3. Yeah. All right, so you're in Los Angeles. You are living the life. You are the man. Your ego is at an all-time high, and you burn through all this cash just on Airbnbs and drinking and drugs and just living the life, I'm assuming?
Absolutely.
Was there some sort of bottom you hit while you were out there?
No, it wasn't a bottom while I was out there. It was kind of I didn't check my bank account balance, and it was one day like my card getting denied checking, and I literally had no money.
And you had no idea. You thought there was like thousands of dollars in there?
I didn't even think about it. And at the time, I was with a guy who, I don't know if you know XXL was. He was almost an XXL freshman. This guy was like during SoundCloud phase. He was a super big guy, and I like lived with him for like 2 weeks in Airbnbs. I met him. I saw him at a gas station in this like AMG Mercedes, 2 girls beside him in a car. And I saw him go up to the gas station window. I was like, pull over. So I went there, went up and paid for his stuff. And I didn't like do it. I did it like I didn't give a fuck. I was so cool about it. I did it. And then like I gave my phone to him. He put in his number. And then he like actually called me like 2 days later and was like, what are you doing? So I left an impression on him somehow. And then we like hung out next 2 weeks. I actually had some great conversations. Like you'd be surprised behind the scenes. The lives those guys actually live. They feel like they have to display this one life. But no, I didn't hit a rock bottom. I know I'm blabbing. Didn't hit a rock bottom in LA. Just went broke and literally had to call my parents, who, thank God they're the people they are, because they didn't have to fly me back. They didn't have to answer the phone. They didn't have to do anything. I mean, I had barely talked to them in months. And they flew me back, and what was so ironic, or just by the chance, is that I missed my flight the first time. I had to call my new rapper friend to drive me back, get another flight, get there, and then the flight gets delayed, and then I get on the plane, and there's like maybe too many seats, and in the front 2 seats, there's extra leg room. They sit me there, I think, just because I'm tall. And then they set a lady with a very nice suitcase, who's obviously irritated, but like she wasn't like mean. And she sits beside me. Her name's Christina Givens, and she's a Christian author and singer. And then she turns to me and asks me, like, you know who Jesus is? Or like, are you, or I forgot her exact wording. But that, when she said those words, and it was like all the little events of me missing the flight and getting to there, like, it was just interesting. And like, it hit me like a gut of self-awareness, a punch in the gut, of self-awareness. And I was like, oh my gosh. I remember sitting on that plane ride home, and it was the first like time I'd really thought about anything outside of my own perspective in, I don't know, life, maybe my whole life. I don't know. And it was overwhelming. And then following the next few months, it was just, it was the darkest time of my life. I was just full of guilt, and realized all the things I'd said and done and who I was, and then realized that's not the lifestyle I want to live. And if that's not the lifestyle I want to live, what do I do with my life? Because that's what musicians do. That's their lifestyle. And so it was like, okay, what do I do? And I quit music for 2-3 years. I would get anxiety attacks when I was in the studio.
Why?
Couldn't do it. I think because maybe it was the guilt from back then. Maybe I thought like, oh, the old stupid kid in me was just blind confidence, and that's where all the music came from. Because I would go in the studio and knock it out one take, not thinking about it. And then I would go in there and I would just have anxiety, not even be able to sing or do anything. And I feel like I associated music and the dream to chase music entirely with this old self. And it was very binary thinking of, there's this new me who wants to be better every day and has this desire to be better every day and be more aware and just genuinely be a good human being. And there's the old me who wanted to be a rock star and didn't care about anything. And that binary mindset was very toxic and took a lot of disciplined thinking to get out of and get to the point where I even released that song.
You mentioned, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit real quick.
I rambled. I apologize.
No, do not apologize. This is a beautiful story, and I'm enjoying every second of it. You're not rambling. You're good. You mentioned during those 2 weeks that you were hanging out with the one fella, you guys had some really, you didn't use the word interesting. What word did you use to describe the conversation?
Deep. Like just
what did you talk about?
Like God and life. And
was he religious at all?
Yeah, he would talk about God a lot. And I don't think he grew up religious. But like, yeah, he DM'd me like recently, like a few months ago, and was like your energy's golden, brother. I'm still here to talk or chop it up whenever. Like, hope everything's okay. And he'll swipe up on some of my stories, be posting in the gym or whatever, and just like do 100 emoji or whatever like that. So like, he's definitely interested in that sort of stuff. But
you ever hit him back?
Yeah. No, we've talked. It's just, and I hope to like eventually have some sort of media where I can have him on the show and like we can talk about that and where we're going in life. But yeah, his images he still posts don't reflect
who he is.
I think so, yeah.
The lady on the plane was named Christina, you said? Am I remembering? Why do you think Christina's question specifically like sort of shook you on that flight? Is it because you hadn't been going to church for a while versus if she had said, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what I would ask someone. I don't know. What was it about asking you, do you believe in Jesus specifically, that had you just not thought about God? And I don't know. I'm just trying to get into where your mind was at in that moment.
I don't think I thought from a genuine place. I think I was very outspoken on social media during that time of my opinion on politics or whatever it was, my arrogant, uneducated opinions. But I think it was the first time I genuinely had thought about it from a pure perspective of just awareness and not like I'd said. It was a mix of the going broke and the realization of like, holy shit, I just went broke in LA and I'm flying home to my parents that I haven't talked to in a few months. And it was a mix of, it was the first ounce of humility I'd felt in a while. and it felt just like a wave of like out of body experience. And like I did say, it felt like I had been in a spell for ever that I had just broken. So it wasn't like an instant like depression or guilt. It was more like a oh my goodness thing. It was like, but yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
What was it like seeing your parents for the first time since being back? So you leave from LA back to Texas, I'm assuming, right? And did you did you have to live with them for a little bit?
Yeah. I still live with my parents right now.
What was it like when seeing them for the first time since you'd been back from Los Angeles?
I wish I could answer that and say a better son seeming answer, but I can't even tell you. I think I was still so focused on myself and my own life. At the time, I don't even remember. I think I was so like caught up in my mind of where am I going to go in life now? What does this mean? And where is this new feeling of pushing away from the lifestyle I was living? Why is it here now? And diving into that, I can't even answer that question.
And you were 20 at the time?
Yeah, I was 20 now. Yeah.
So this
20.
would have also been, was the pandemic happening? Are we in 2020?
Yo, this is all through like the peak pandemic.
So then so sort of what happens next? Because you said you sort of went on like I think pre-recording you told me that you were sort of went on this like 1 to 2 year spiritual journey of sorts. So what those 2 years look like?
Well, it started off I instantly went back to church. I instantly went to this guy, and I was going to this like men's group small study. And what was really hard is like I was just hooking up with girls doing OnlyFans in LA and doing hard drugs and questioning my entire existence and where I was going to be in life. And there were these other guys in this men's group that were just, to me at the time, just living lives that were uncomparable, and they would never understand my perspective, I thought. And it was just super hard. There was a guy saying like, oh, I studied for my math test, but I still got a C. And then me, I just want to break down and be like, I feel worthless. I feel like I've had sex with 50 women in the past 2 years, and how am I going to get a wife? And now am I going to die at 30? Like, how do I change my health? How do I do? And like, I couldn't even talk about it because I felt like so out of place. So like that didn't work, and that made it even harder. Like I can't even turn to the church. I was like, and I never had mental health problems, but I was having massive anxiety attacks with like it felt like an elephant foot in my chest, to where like a 20-year-old 6'3" guy in his bed just curled up, like shaking while his mom's holding him. I went from this like the top of the world ego to like just guilt, despair. All my old friends think so poorly of me now, and all the new friends I'd made, I don't want to live that lifestyle anymore. Felt so alone. I felt so unconfident, and I felt just like I didn't know where to go. And it was through ups and downs. I think the first book that really changed my mindset a little bit was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Good one.
And then I started like practicing journaling and auto-suggestion a lot then. And man, I had a note card. I still have a note card to this day. I could pull it out. I switch almost as my perspective changes. But it started off with just, like I have a tattoo on my hand right here. It says, stay humble, stay honest. 2 things I really needed to hear. Way more of growing up. And my dad's the most humble, honest man I've ever met in my life. And that's probably why I wasn't, is because I was this is who I was. I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about it. You were
You
had the 2 kids that imitated the parents, and then you had Gremlin Mitch.
Absolutely. Yep. But no, I had a card, and it would write, I am humble, I am honest, I am this, I am that. And like I read it every day, every morning, every night. And so that was the biggest, I think, first stepping stone. It wasn't just, and being able to like confirm that in my own life and be like, little things like, I just picked up the house for my mom and like not expected her to look at it. Like I did it because I loved them. And a little thing like that, which seems so privileged to say, but like before everything I did, I was like, people are going to see me do this good thing. And now it was like, no, I did this good thing because I wanted to, or it was like, so it was just those little things. But it started off on a very lone journey, and I've spent personally over $10,000 on courses online from people I thought were cool. So I went through lots of different education courses, and then my parents also have paid probably $5,000 plus for me to get educated, all untraditional ways.
This is all during this 2 to 3 year period.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. What was one of the courses? Just give us one for fun.
One was called Tribe Accelerator, which is about a social dynamic course thing, but it started off with like really dove into, you wouldn't expect it, but like quantum physics and like his goal, this guy, his name's Arlen Moore. He's a super cool guy. I think his main mission, he says, is to raise the human consciousness and build a brain around that. And it sounds like all voodoo, like, oh, what do you mean by that to people? But it really just means being aware and understanding the science of how you interact with the world around you. And so when you don't just write affirmations or read them and then be like, oh, it worked, but you understand like the principle of quantum mechanics behind that and like how that applies, it like builds so much more perspective and it's kind of some confirmation to keep going. So, but that was mainly like social dynamics, becoming a confident person again, understanding all that jazz, which is very untraditional education and very more applied to the modern world. But that had a big impact on me. Met a lot of cool young guys through that.
So, and why were you guys spending so much money on these courses? Just because you needed to make some sort of change and you didn't think college was the answer, or?
Yeah, I didn't think college was the answer at all. And I don't know if it was because of, oh, it felt too shameful to go backwards and actually go to college, like I failed everything, or if it was like I genuinely had an intuition it wasn't the place for me. I want to give myself some credit. I do think intuitively I knew it wasn't the path for me. Mm-hmm. And I did take some like classes through college, like took a digital marketing course and stuff like that, like through different things, but never like went to full school. But no, it was, I never cared about getting educated, never cared about learning. And I had such a burning desire to become educated and learn. And it wasn't like just learn a subject in school. It was like learn who I am, who I'm going to be, what is this world, and where do I fit in it? It was getting educated in that realm, which is pretty untraditional, if you ask me. But that's inspired everything that I want to do now.
So at what point do you start Project Wildfire? And why? Give me like the, a little bit behind it when you're sort of coming out of the slump and then you get this idea.
So I think it was pretty right after my dark depression. It came to me in a literal vision. Like I'm telling you, like it popped in my head from nowhere and I didn't do anything with it for years. I had an idea where I was like, because at first I was still thinking about music right after I came back from LA, and I was like, okay, how can I be a musician still and like be a better person? But it didn't make sense to me. And it came to me then. It started off as an idea for a TV show that would be pitched to whatever, Netflix, Hulu. And like imagine if Drake, one of the biggest artists in the world, or any artist, on concerts, typically when they tour the country, every city they go to a club after who pays them $25,000 just to show up and be there. And then they post.
Because the club gets the credit for that. Oh, look, Drake's here. And then the crowds flow in.
Correct.
And they easily make that money back through alcohol sales, the door cover.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's very typical in the industry.
I didn't know that's one of the ways that musicians made money.
Oh, absolutely.
No
absolutely.
idea.
Just get show up places. But what if they did a show and on every city they went to, instead of doing that, they had some sort of portal and they would work with a sponsor and do something good for the city. Like they worked with a nonprofit, or they helped someone in need, or they went to a different building and showed up. They went to a school and they did a fundraiser there. But it was all about like taking that notion of like fueling that lifestyle and switching it to do something good and to change the culture. So, and that's where Project Wildfire came, because it was like one little thing there. You call other artists to do it, and all of a sudden, if all the mainstream artists are doing it, it could be a wildfire. So Project Wildfire started with that idea. Yeah, that was the spark of it.
Do you happen to remember what year or how old, like when the vision hit you the first time?
Yeah, that was when I was still 20, and I think I was laying down probably in my bed, not knowing what to do with my life. And
Here?
I think, yeah, at my parents' house.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember when or where it was exactly, but it came to me, and it was almost like I put it in the back of a filing cabinet in my head, because I couldn't even see how I could be a musician again or even begin to do that.
So did you write it down, or it literally just stayed as a
In my
memory
head.
for a little bit?
Correct, because after I did get better, I started going to CrossFit. After like all the education and getting some good community, I just dived into marketing. I think I'm a talented marketer in some ways, but it was never what I knew I was going to do at the end of my life. Like I was almost suppressing my passions and what I felt like the universe was calling me to do. And I got into marketing stuff. I started Modern Ideation LLC and started doing marketing consulting as some 21-year-old, not knowing really what he was doing. And then I worked with a concert venue, worked with these different brands. And Eventually just got a regular job being the event manager and director of marketing at this venue, and did that until last February and quit because I got to the point where I was like, I'm content and like I'm going to be here forever and I don't want to live this life. Like I know I'm suppressing things. I need to chase this and chase Project Wildfire and like figure out why I'm too scared to record music, figure out why I'm too scared to put myself on the internet and overcome these things, be a man and chase what I know I'm here to do.
March of 2022 or 23, you said, sorry.
This was February of this year.
February of this year, you quit to do Project Wildfire for
Correct.
full time.
Correct.
Wow. So you just said something that was interesting, and we'll come back to Project Wildfire right after this. You said you needed to be a man. What does that mean to you, to be a man?
That meant I felt like I was displaying a life so other people would be like, oh, Mitchell's normal now. Oh, he matured so much. Oh, he's going to CrossFit. Oh, he's being an entrepreneur. Oh, he's working this marketing job, making money. Oh, I felt like I was fitting into society of what I thought they wanted me to be. And I wasn't running towards my fears, doing what I know I should. And so by be a man, I meant, and that's in no way me correlating what I think a man is. It was more a figure of speech of, face your fears, do what's hard, and do it. Because I've been able to do Murphs and CrossFit. I pushed through lots of things physically from where I was. I was 215 pounds, dad bod, overweight, and got down to 175.
Really?
215 to 175.
You look great, by the way.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sitting at like 190 right now, but when I started doing CrossFit, I was like, went way down because I was only eating like meat and fruit for a little bit. And yeah, so I did a lot of hard things physically, but I was still not tackling face on the mental adversities I knew I had to face eventually.
How'd you tackle those?
There is a man named Alan who was the last sort of education. I've never hired a one-on-one coach or program or anything, but his whole thing was that man really helped me like almost like step by step on this journey, which I did earlier this year with him. Was like, what is your purpose here? How do you be a leader? And how do you navigate that emotionally and energetically? And I think that was the biggest thing of it. It was a big help kind of being guided through some of these things, almost like half therapy, half life coaching in a way. And lots of people thought like, oh my God, you hired a life coach, dude? That is the most stupid thing I've ever heard. Like a lot of people like hated on it and a lot of people did this or that, but I think it was the most transformative things I've ever done to this day because it was a step forward to what I know I had to face. So I'm not ashamed of it at all.
You shouldn't be, because the man sitting in front of me today is super humble. Like I can tell you've done something to get your ego in check. And if that was part of it, then that was maybe one of the best decisions. You finally spent your money on something good.
Oh my goodness. Look how far we've come. That might be the first time someone said that to me.
It's true.
Thank you.
I'm not just saying it to say it or to make you feel better about your tattoo. You seem like a super humble dude.
Thank you.
And I wouldn't say, I've met some egotistical people. I wouldn't tell them they were humble and then just feed that ego, So well done, Alan. And give yourself a lot of props as well to being self-aware enough to realize that you need to change something, What do you do these days to keep your ego in check?
My index card that I have written, I read every morning and every night still. Constant journaling. Staying around the right people. And I set alarms on my phone to keep myself in check. If I know I'm about to go to an event or about to do something, I'll set an alarm that reminds me to like just put myself into perspective and like remind myself who I want to become and why it's important to me. So really it's a lot of consistency like that.
So did you set an alarm before coming here?
I did not, but I watched a YouTube video that was along the same personal
vibes.
development guidelines.
Yeah.
So it put me into a good perspective for sure.
You've never told your story in like this before, have you?
No, not in depth like this. I don't think so. At least not publicly.
Thank you. First off, we're not about to end, but we still have we need to talk about Project Wildfire. But I really appreciate it. Why do you think you were willing to be so genuine and put this out here today?
I think the fear is just gone. I think it's time. I keep thinking about like who I want to be as a musician and what I want Project Wildfire to be, and like the biggest thing people need is we need to stop the separation that puts these kids, like kid I was, has this mindset of success and materialism and all this. We need to be authentic and relatable because we're all humans. And every musician and all these content creators still want to have this like mysterious, ambiguous, like, oh, you don't know my life's so cool type thing. And I still, even to this, like even a few weeks ago, I was thinking about, oh, how am I going to market this single I just put out? How am I going to personally brand? I still have one picture on Instagram. You're like, oh, I can't find anything on you. It's because still I haven't posted anything because I'm thinking about how to brand myself, but I don't need to brand myself. I just need to tell my story. I need to stop thinking about it as some business and just do what I know I am here to do. And part of that is just being authentic and telling my story.
You've told it today.
I've told it today.
You've told it today. So Project Wildfire, where was it at in March? When did it become a real thing? Was there like a launch date, or was there any particular day where like it went from in your head to we're doing our first fire starter event, or like how did it start?
Yeah, it's, Sapien Center is like my second home right now. It's a health and wellness based social club in East Austin. Started by one of my good friends, Brian Sanders, and I found that place just on meetup.com. There's a guy named Corey who does these business and health entrepreneurial meetups, and I would have never found if it wasn't for him. So shout out Corey.
Shout out Corey.
And this Sundays, I asked it, can I start doing like a little family dinner with like 4 or 5 people? And we all just set our ups and downs for the day. We goal set, and we all cooked dinner and had a family dinner together, which is something so many young adults lack. It's just like dinner with community.
At the Sapien Center?
At the Sapien Center.
Not to interrupt you, but it's funny that you just said that because I moved to Austin a year ago and didn't know a soul. And the Sunday before Thanksgiving, 2 of my friends came over from the gym to play Smash Bros. And at first they thought that's all we were going to do. And I was like, I haven't had dinner. I haven't like made dinner and hosted a dinner in my home since I've been in Austin. Well, I did one. That's a lie. I had some family visit, Melissa and Caitlin. That's not what I meant. What I more meant was like, I had not had brothers over and had like just like-minded dudes that I love to break bread with. Yeah. And so them coming over, man, it was such a special day. I don't think they know like how happy that made me. So that story just like is so fucking cool.
Dude, it's so important.
Right. To break bread with like-minded people. Yeah, right? You have to.
Oh my gosh. It's something so missing.
So was that like the first like quote unquote event?
We go weekly fire starter. I have the Slack channel still there. It's weekly fire starter. It was just our members. And then I convinced them to let me do it public. And I would Venmo $5 for every non-member that came. And I would pay for all the food and Venmo $5 for every non-member that came.
You have to be a member to technically to go to the Sapien Center. Is that what you mean?
No, there's lots of events where you can go. But I meant just for me as like using the center.
Gotcha.
So because I wasn't paying the center. They were letting me do this.
Gotcha.
But so I did my first public one and I made worksheets and very in-depth topics, and we had Jeffersonian style bounce around at dinner, and then I started giving presentations, and I'd bring in speakers. I only brought in one, Matt Worthington, who's the founder of Riser in Austin. He came and told his story about his sobriety and starting Riser. And yeah, I did the fire starters, and then we wanted to I'm trying to think what was next. But what was your question? I'm rambling. What was your original question?
No, you're going exactly where I want you to. Is now. Okay. So how did it evolve from there? So you're doing these weekly events.
Yeah, weekly events. They turn public. I make that. I don't know if you saw like the website I made on Canva.
I did.
That was like back summer. It's still up. I'm working on a Squarespace site right now.
Okay.
It'll be up by the end of the year, I promise, and it looks amazing.
I'm going to hold you to that.
I've been working hard on it. Hold me to it.
28 days or something like that.
Hold me to it because I've been working hard on it. Yeah, we did something called Sup Social, which is we collaborated with a fellow entrepreneur in Austin who owns Austin Paddle Co. And so he has a little, sup pop-up shop where people can rent, and he also sells them. Me and him did an alcohol-free sandbar party in the middle of Lake Austin.
Fuck yeah.
Where I bought a ton of inflatable games like volleyball, just platforms. We bought gladiator badons and different stuff, and we just got a bunch of people, and it was a free event. I convinced him to do it with me. Shout out Brad. He did that for free. And now we're going to do another one next summer, and we're going to give people tickets to that for free. It's going to be even bigger and better, but we're doing Operation, I don't have a name for it, but we're going to clean up Lady Bird Lake. So 2 young entrepreneurs collaborating, Project Wildfire being the bridge, and set up service projects to clean up the city, and then everyone who participates gets to come to the sub-social event.
So where Project Wildfire is today, if I gleaned correctly off social media, is you're throwing a lot of these type events where people can go volleyball tournaments or on the lake, like what you said, and it's events where there's non-alcoholic options. I think there was a few where maybe there's like an alcoholic option, but you're essentially just trying to bring together like-minded individuals while also having some other events that are doing something good for the city.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems broad, but our goal is to change the culture, and we don't know the answer to what that is. We have to bring together like-minded minds. We have to be people of service and help each other out so we can do it together. Because it's not like, oh, I know how to change the culture. I'm going to build a brand around it and do it. No, I don't know the answer. Like, I don't know the answer to be the best man I can be. It's a humble process every day, and that's how I want my brand to be as well. And the end goal really is for it to be a lifestyle brand, kind of like Barstool Sports, Full Send type lifestyle brand, doing media. Not just the events is just how we started it, to get community together, to meet people, to provide service that I thought we could in Austin with social options, which is so needed in there. But the end goal is to, like I said, me and Trey want to be rock stars and live a very different life and display it through a brand.
Give me a second to collect my thoughts, because I knew what my follow-up question was going to be, and it just ran away. Fuck.
No worries.
Oh, so you're doing this full-time, and you have been for 9 months, give or take?
I've done marketing work off and on, and then I just worked on a film studio for a few months.
Doing what?
A production assistant.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So is Project Wildfire making money right now? Is there any revenue?
No.
So one thing I love about what you said is that you and me share in common is you're starting Project Wildfire the same way I started the podcast. So before we mic'd up, I was telling you I didn't have any of the answers. Mm-hmm. I just knew I needed to start recording.
Yeah.
And so I hope that for you as well, you find the right people so you guys can figure out. And I don't think there is any one answer.
Yeah.
That's a big question you're asking. You know, how do we change culture for the better? It's not going to be one answer.
Absolutely.
But I think one of the ways that you can do it is by what you're already doing. You're being the example. You've cleaned up your own life, and you're throwing these events. You're doing them for free, and you're seeking things out, and you're leading by example. And it's just, dude, it's so fucking cool.
Dude, thank you. And it's not me. It's not like I'm doing all this for free. The Endless Summer party we did at Sapien Center was ticketed. Sapien Center, let's do it there for free, and did a profit split with us. Big shout out to them. They're the only reason that happened. The volleyball tournaments and the pickleball tournament next weekend, next Saturday. This episode was even out by then.
It will not be.
The pickleball tournament y'all missed is not me who threw those. It's Will Spike. There's a mezcal fresca with electrolytes and aptogens in it that promotes mindful drinking to change the culture around how our relationship with alcohol. A good friend of mine named Bill Murphy who started that. So it's a mezcal fresca drink that is building an event company beside that, providing social options for young adults through sports, promoting drinking mindfully and getting shit done. Quote. So he does the sports tournaments, and we are just blessed enough to serve with him. So we are running the tournament at the pickleball and then being MCs. Volleyball tournament, same thing. We helped with content, and then we sports casted the final as a joke and then MC'd it and ran the tournament. So a lot of these events, like the Sub Social, none of it's me. It's all me going to somebody and asking them and them being willing to work with me.
Do you happen to have any events in late January? Because this will probably come out in early January, or is nothing planned that far out yet?
Well, we have our first media show called Day on Fire. We have production locked in, camera people. That's part of the reason I worked in the film set, so I wanted to learn that world.
Gotcha.
And so our first media show that's going to be official is called Day on Fire. Hopefully when the music comes out and we grow, we're going to get other musicians to come on, just pretty much live a day in the life with us, where we'll do fun adventure, growth, service, but pretty much just have a good time, be authentic, have great conversations, be fun, or have fun, excuse me, but also
and be fun.
And
have
be fun.
fun and be fun.
Have fun and be fun. But display what a life on fire is with other people in the industry. That's a big passion of mine, is to have a show like that. And as soon as we set that up and start doing more media, we want to have a launch party as like an official media company. Because like I said, we started with the events, but our goal is never to be an event company. That's purely us figuring it out. Because I don't have an answer of, I'm making this product to solve this problem. It's not what it is. We're building a community and a lifestyle brand through whatever the hell we're doing that we think might work towards changing the culture. But like we said, it's a humble journey that not 1, not 2, not 10 people are going to have the answer to. But to answer your question, maybe having a launch party next year. But for sure, when the website is up, when this airs, Sup Social 2024, there'll be a sign up link so you can help clean up Lady Bird Lake and then come party on the sandbar with us.
Cool. So let me ask you this: going back to the original vision, is that still going to happen with the musicians taking those promoter fees or the fees from the club and using that for something? Do you still want to make that happen?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to believe in yourself, right? Like as soon as I open for somebody on tour, that's going to be the first thing I pitch. It's like, hey, every city we go to, let's do this. Let's document it. And let's call out other people to do the same thing. So absolutely. And hopefully it happens sooner and later. I mean, I took the first step by putting out that song a few days ago. And I don't know what I'm doing at all. I'm struggling to even get my artist accounts from Spotify and Apple and prove it to me because I have so little credibility online. Like you can't find anything about me. So you go through a distribution company and they put the songs out, and then you have to claim your artist account. Yep. And they're like, "Oh, prove this is you." "Oh, here's my Instagram. That's all I have." But no,
with your one picture.
With my one picture.
With your one picture.
But for me, it's a baby.
I was going to say it's not even you. I mean, it is you. It's not you now.
It's me as a child. So yeah. I'm definitely learning, and it's something I gotta just learn the process. But no, Project Wildfire and the music dream are completely intertwined. The dream is to be entertainers, challenging the status quo, what success is and what the ideal lifestyle is, and brand it, that pursuit and the lifestyle we learn to live, and brand it as a life on fire. Because sometimes personal development, these words don't sound cool to the child who wants to live this star life. So we want to create a new rock star life, call it a life on fire. But it's very different than the rock star life you picture now when you think of it.
I like that. I love that. Do you personally have any... So actually, let me rephrase how I ask this. There's been a question I've asked a couple of guests, and so far, none of them have been able to give me an answer on the spot. Mm-hmm. I think you might be able to. So let's say you could snap your fingers and make any one problem on Earth disappear. So whether that's homelessness, bringing clean water to the masses, you could even say, though, like depression or cancer or war, like one issue you have to choose. Which one would you eradicate?
Is perspective an issue? Lack of perspective? So I think if you have perspective, you have the world, and your mind's your reality.
I think that you could make that your issue. Yeah.
I think
you would give everyone perspective.
Mindset, perspective. As long as you have perspective, I mean, your reality is what you say it is.
Yeah.
Believe it is. Feel it is. So
now that one we cannot do with money. So then going back to Project Wildfire, do you happen to have any one thing that you're very passionate about that you would take with that club money, the $25K that you're referencing? Would it, the thing you do, would it vary by city based on what the city needs? Or is there one thing that you specifically would like to tackle, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Going back to, I don't have the answer. Like I would say, every city we're going to donate to this nonprofit, but that's easy.
Right.
And not saying that I always do the hard thing because I'm just a hard worker. No, but I don't know the answer. I think it needs to be adaptable. And as things come up, like I met Brad, the guy who owns Austin Powder Co. randomly. The idea, I didn't want to throw a sober sandbar party and clean up Lady Bird Lake. I just met him and the idea came to me. As we meet people and experience these new things, life, plants these little ideas in our head and helps us move forward. So my most firm belief that keeps me going is if I truly desire to be a better person every day and pursue a vision that's bigger than myself, that's not just for my selfish ways, but bigger than a brand, those little ideas will keep dropping to me. And I believe they will. And that's how my events, that's how my media, that's how the company will be built.
I think it won't just be your ideas. It will be.
Some
of it will be. I believe for you, I'm going to throw this out there into the universe right now, that Project Wildfire is going to get so big that cities are going to be contacting you guys and saying that we would love it if when you guys come to our city, this is what we could use. I think they're going to reach out to Project Wildfire and try to make something happen with you.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
That's a dream, man. Because we want to do that right now with brands in Austin. You know, like Siete is a really cool brand in Austin that they brand their food in a very fun way, but they don't advertise shitting on other food brands because they use only avocado oil, great ingredients. They have honorable startups from their child's having food allergies, but they don't promote their product by saying other products are bad for you because of this. We're not. They just promote it in a fun way, and they just change the status quo without pointing fingers. It's exactly what I want to do. I don't want to point fingers at any other brand, any other artist, or anything. I just want to present this lifestyle, this humble journey in a fun way and change the status quo. Because love is always the answer. It's never going to be pointing fingers. But that's what I'm setting up on the website right now is work with us. So kind of going back to the ideas randomly coming, my mom told me about the Helping Hands has an empty bowls project every year in Drooping Springs where they fill bowls with soup and then sell them and raise money for Helping Hands. They lost some of their main donators during COVID. And I just had randomly gone to this pottery studio that's made by a guy named John Davis, who is from Wall Street and now does this out of his home by himself. And it's a donation-based studio and a one-man show and just started. And I went to him with this idea, like, hey, let's set up classes with young adults and donate everything we make to these people that are missing ceramic donators. And we did that. And that was like our first, like, almost like service project, like not event at all. And transparently, we didn't get a single sign up. Not one person signed up.
Why do you think that is?
Well, we don't have that many followers. We're pretty small. But maybe it's the way I promoted it or went with it. So I rounded up to some friends, just like 5 people, and we just made bowls for an hour. We made like probably 25 or whatever. We raised a little over $500.
Hell yeah.
For the Helping Hands.
What's Helping Hands' main mission, in case someone in the audience hasn't heard of them?
The Helping Hands, I actually couldn't tell you.
That's awesome. We'll look it up, and what I'll do is I'll put, like, on the YouTube version of this, I'll put a screenshot of their website over this section, and if anyone that happens to want to get involved, you can just click on the link and head over to the mission. We apologize.
I know it's to feed the hungry, but I don't know if it's more than that, so I don't want to, like, confine them to that one.
Based off how you were describing it, that's what I thought you were going to say, is it must be some sort of integration with helping the homeless populations around here and getting them food or something, or bowls or whatnot. All right, cool. What's next for you? What are you most excited about in 2024?
2024 is Project Austin Takeover.
Yes.
All change starts at the local level. Trey has been such like a angel on my shoulder of like balancing me out because I have these big dreams of like, oh, let's do a big show. Let's take over the internet right now. Like I have these connections. We can do this now. But if we make a video displaying this lifestyle that we don't even know what a life on fire is yet, we're still learning.
Right.
If we make this video and it gets millions of views with high quality production, even if we do it, like, where are those kids going to go? Like, they see this video and then what? Their life changes? Like, oh, it was more of me wanting the numbers to appear successful with this vision than it was of the real impact we need to have. And Trey was like, in my philosophy class, they said all change starts at the local level. And that means working with brands in Austin, being the bridge between different community leaders, different brands, different causes in Austin, and just the same thing, like meeting people and setting things up as they go, and just trying to be those two guys chasing a music dream that are trying to live life in a different way and be community leaders. Because entertainers have the biggest influence on kids. And I'm saying that as with no credibility, but I guarantee you could prove it. Just based off content and different stuff. So if we can make entertainers and influencers social media influencers influence in a better lifestyle way. I mean, I think that's how we solve all these problems with these kids. I mean, every year people are talking about the rising drug use, the rising depression, the rising kids not knowing where to go, identity problems, all of this. Yet still, they're up to 7.5 hours on average on TikTok a day. And what is the content they're absorbing from influencers, influencing them how?
Right.
It's not that they're influencing them in a bad way. It's that it's just common culture. It's just they're not thinking about it. So I just want to bring some authenticity and perspective in a new way.
I'll give your statement some validity. The one that you said you just sort of pulled out of your ass.
Yeah.
So there's this band that I was recently introduced to called The Broken View. And the reason I was told about them is because I have a buddy who just joined the band as their bass player. So they're a New York-based band. And I listened to their stuff once, more just because I wanted to get a feel for like what he's about to get himself involved with. Mm-hmm. And the music is really, really good. So 3 Fridays ago, they launched a podcast, dropped their first episode. And in the episode 1, they took a lot of Q&A from their YouTube subscribers. And then episode number 2, they got to interview one of their heroes. And then in episode number 3, the main singer and the drummer, shout out Austin Krennick and Tyler. I don't know your last name, Tyler. Sorry. They basically just shot the shit, like two buddies just basically catching up on life for the first hour and a half of the show. And then somewhere in that episode, they started talking about how people treat each other. And it was just this beautiful conversation about how Tyler was saying, like, sometimes when he's driving, 20 miles under the speed limit and all of a sudden a car's honking at him, it's not because he's trying to drive like an asshole. It's just because he was listening to some music and he was jamming out to it. And he admitted to a fault. Like, I just was more focused on my music, like shit. And so being in those moments in life, he's like, I always try when someone is mistreating me bad, like whether it's how they're driving or how they spoke to me, or like I have some negative encounter with a stranger, instead of getting mad back, I try to just tell myself a story of like, what are they going through that led them to take it out on me, and that it had nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And it was just this awesome conversation, and I hope like that specific episode gets spread everywhere so people can, to your point, hear from someone they look up to, and then be like, well, if this is how Austin and Tyler are doing their life, maybe that's how I should be conducting myself. And maybe the next time someone slights me, instead of punching them back, not literally, but like,
yeah,
instead of getting mad at this person, maybe I'll take a second and pause and think like, what's Mitch going through that caused him to be a dick in that moment?
Absolutely.
And so I agree with you 1,000% that if more musicians, YouTubers, whoever it is, had their music as one thing, but then are doing what Austin and Tyler are doing and talking about things that matter to them and leading by example, that could have a profound impact on our culture and on our generation, for sure.
Yeah, you put it perfectly. I mean, the dream is just to build a huge lifestyle brand around that competes with the other cool lifestyle brands the kids like.
And then how cool would it be? What if this all led to like The Broken View being like one of the first major artists that partnered with Project Wildfire, because they go on national tours and are even thinking about, well, I won't say that. I don't know if I should say that because I know Tommy, so I know a few things that most people don't. But how cool would that be?
That's
if
how
we just like
work.
manifested this? Not we, but
We'll clip this.
Yeah. Anywho, I wanted to give Trey a shout out because you have mentioned him a few times and no one listening has any idea who this is.
Yeah.
What's his last name?
Trey McBurney.
Trey McBurney, and he is your co-founder?
Co-founder, yes. Best friend, producer, all the gist. Tennis partner.
And it sounds like you guys are also, you have two different perspectives on things, so you sort of complement each other as business partners.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's always been such a fun kid, outgoing, but I think he was definitely the more, like, he did well in school. He went into college. But we grew up playing tennis together. So we went to high school together. We met at a 6th grade basketball camp, Don Eddy basketball camp. And grew up playing tennis together. I was a way bigger troublemaker than he was, but we still had fun together. And he went to college, joined a fraternity. And I don't want to tell his story from him, but I know he'd be okay with me just saying that, like, the Greek life in college definitely led him down a path he woke up from and then desired to be better. So I kind of went the social media LA displayed life, party lifestyle, and he kind of went the traditional school party lifestyle. But we met back up after school, and we've both been on this amazing journey. I wouldn't be anywhere I am today without him. Just having him on my shoulder and us texting each other every day, hyping each other up, reminding ourselves who we want to become, what we want to do. Whether he's going home to family and trying to explain what Project Wildfire is and they don't get it, or whatever. Other kids are being entrepreneurs, making money through the stock market or this or that, something they're not even passionate about, just so they can buy a car just to show off. Like, just reminding each other that we're doing something that's bigger than ourselves to make an impact that we can't even see right now.
Right.
So no, having him and a partner like that is tremendous, and he's an outstanding guy.
You know, Trey, don't take this the wrong way, because I know why you're not here tonight, and I'm very sorry you're having a shit week and it sucks. That being said, I'm sort of glad that you came on one-on-one, because we never would have been able to deep dive into your story, because then he would have just been like sitting here with the mic silent, like, do I get to talk anytime soon? Quiet, Trey. No. So in a way, I almost feel like the universe sort of worked this out for us, because we were able to deep dive into your story. And if Trey's down, what I would like to do is maybe like 6 months from now, have him on for a solo episode and wait for a bit, because then he could come on, tell his story, but also the audience could get an update on what's happened with Project Wildfire in the months since you and I recorded. Absolutely,
because he's got a fantastic story to tell too, and his own world of passions. So no, that's a great idea. Yeah, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Mitch, this has been an amazing episode. We have a few more minutes. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything you want to shout out?
Dude, something I really am interested in that I try to look online is music is the biggest tool in the world. It's the only universal language that can talk to anybody.
Yep.
And I've been diving into frequencies and like hertz and how music applies to the subconscious, and all these kids listening to this cool music that's talking about this lifestyle. Even though the kids don't live that lifestyle, it affects their brain and it affects the subconscious. So I'm super interested in just creating music with awareness of those things and where to go in that way. So if anyone in your audience or you has any books or resources or point in the right direction of how to create music, not just lyrics wise, I mean like general frequency wise, that's in harmony with the natural frequencies of the earth. And that's a whole nother story. But I don't think people think about that, and it seems really weird and spiritual, but it's not. I mean,
not really. Everyone listens to music. If you want to really just dumb it down, like,
yeah, I more mean like the frequency thing. I think I've seen that the natural keys of music that we have nowadays, created in 1940 by Mr. Rockefeller, was different. Like, are these certain frequencies that aren't aligned with the natural frequencies portrayed in the universe, and it could be affecting us all in different ways. Because, like, you know, I remember I first heard sound healing, and I was like, what is sound healing? Like, people just play a certain sound and you're healed. But it's not about the sound. It's about the frequency and how the wave affects you. The same way the sun can burn your skin. You know, it's not an object, but it's a frequency. It's a wavelength. And same way sound healing can work too. In the same way that a sound wave can shatter glass, it can have an effect on your body. And, like, same with different frequencies can make water at a microscopic level form into different shapes. Your body's made of water, and there's lots of other cellular function, lots of different variables that sound affects, and it's proven. And all the music we play, we think, oh, the lyrics affect the kid's subconscious, but the frequency of music is affecting your body in ways we aren't aware of. And that's something I'm trying to dive into too.
Have you ever gone, I know, like, you can buy some Harvard case studies for relatively cheap, like $5, 10, 15, 20. Have you ever tried to see if there's anyone that has actually researched this, and maybe there's because I don't think what you're looking for, I bet the solution is someone studied this, but I doubt their findings are going to be on Google. You might have to pay $5 to get access to someone's research. Have you gone that avenue yet?
I didn't even know I could do that.
You can do that.
Well,
then they're not that expensive.
Now I know. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I have a buddy that's a recruiter, and he wanted to figure out, what do people want to hear? What kind of messaging would they respond to if I cold message someone on LinkedIn, what like will guarantee that they'll respond to me, because that's a recruiter's biggest issue. So he bought for under $100 like 6, 7, or 8 studies on just communicating with people. And what he read in there was so effective, he was able to quit his job, started his own business, and now he has like multiple employees. And because he he was able to go and find what people resonate with.
What a blessing it is that we can literally learn anything at the tip of our fingers.
Right.
We don't even think about that in that level. I mean, my education on all this is from YouTube. And don't get me wrong, there's some great people on YouTube that do a lot of research, probably like you're discussing, on their own. And so it's good to have perspective and watch other people's opinions. But no, I didn't. Yeah, that's so. Thank you for telling me that. I wasn't even aware.
And of course, I'm not knocking YouTube. It's just what you're looking for is so specific.
And it needs credibility. It's not, you can't have this whole ideology in the way you do things based off a YouTube video that makes you question things. Like,
sure you can. Officially just got kicked off something. Everyone just hit the stop button. But they know I'm kidding. They know me by now. I'm a sarcastic motherfucker.
We love YouTube.
Thank you.
Thank you, YouTube.
Thank you, YouTube. What else?
Dude, I'm satisfied. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm super appreciative of you letting me tell my story here. And it felt good just to get it out there and sit here. And I'm still cheesing off you calling me humble. I never thought that day would come.
Oh, I totally meant it too. What's the other one? It's stay humble and stay what?
Stay humble, stay honest. Everything I've said has been a lie. I'm a secret agent.
I have to ask you about one tattoo in the show. Yep. This one. Probably just because I've seen it 17 times, but it's essentially because we filmed this one as sort of more of a mysterious episode. I don't know why, because you're not a top secret agent, but we both liked the lighting. So in case you guys can't see it, it's a pencil. At least I think it's a pencil. Yeah. And then near the eraser, there's a nail going through it. And is this also a little smoke?
Yeah, there's a match that goes up to smoke.
Okay, so what's going on the forearm?
So, funny thing is I get tattoos, don't know what they mean, and then I make up meanings, so it seems like I plan everything.
Was this I don't want to call it sobriety, but was this in your parting days, or you still do this to this day?
Okay, my mom's going to hear this, and she's going to be like, oh, no. But this is the story
Sorry,
of,
Mom.
I got this pencil with a nail through it in high school. Me and one of my best friends took a lot of acid. And there was a pencil with a nail through it in his wall. And I, during it, said, I'm going to get this tattooed on me. Because, funny story, he grew up atheist, I grew up Christian. And because of our psychedelic experiences together, we both questioned what we'd come up from. And he started believing in God. And I wanted to help him pursue what that was. So we both questioned our realities, which is healthy. It's good to help.
Yep.
It's good to question things. Whether anything's right or wrong, it's good to question it.
Especially on acid.
Especially on acid. So together, that bonded us in totally, not the drugs. It was us as young men questioning our realities and building that curiosity. But I said, I'm going to get that tattooed on me, and I did. And now I tell people, and what it means to me is anything I say and do, Jesus through that. Because, I mean, I got it for that reason, but everything else for a reason. And like that's usually what I say is like pen is greater than the sword.
Yeah.
There's that. Pen is greater than a sword. They're like the nail represents God to me, and then everything I write, create, and say, like, do it with pure intentions. And I got the match with the smoke just to kind of represent, like, I'm not even going to make something up.
I thought for sure it was going to be Project Wildfire related, because I did see at one point when you lowered your arm, I did see the match. I didn't actually catch on to the smoke until just now, 2 minutes ago when I described it. But I thought for sure it was going to be this intricate thing about Project Wildfire and how it started as a small match, but eventually it's going to, but no.
Go up to everything. No, I mean, I've always, the match symbolism, like, I got this before Project Wildfire, like way before the idea came along, the match. And the match has been my LinkedIn background for a long time, and I've always had a connection to it. I don't know what it is. It's just the match has always hit to me, kind of like Project Wildfire in the back of my head. So it means a lot to me, even though I can't even tell you what it means. The match has always been there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Whew. All right, everyone. Well, this has been Mitch. Oh my God, I'm blanking on your last name. Starts with Hetrick. This has been Mitch Hetrick, and if you have stuck with us for the last hour and a half, I'm assuming that you were inspired by his story and that it did in fact light a fire within you. I know it did in me. I feel like I have an adrenaline rush running in my body right now. Or I'm just in also like a very peaceful state, just like knowing that you're okay and that you like where you were and where you got to just sort of makes me feel like calm and at peace as well. So I want more people to have that feeling. And the only way that they're going to be able to hear this episode is with your guys' help. So if you listened on Spotify today and you haven't given us a 5-star rating yet, please do so. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a 5-star rating and you can write a review as well. So if you wanted to say something to Mitch or to myself, please do so. I will pass it on to him. We both would love to see those comments. And if you're watching on YouTube today, please subscribe to the channel, because that is how we are going to spread Mitch's story to whatever person out there needs their own internal fire lit. So with that being said, I hope everyone has a healthy and happy Saturday night, and we will see you next week for another episode of David's Saturday Night Sit Back.